So we are shooting outside here after a wonderful little congregation meeting and a nice after congregation meal. And it was so nice we thought we'd shoot outside, so the camera angles might be a little bit shakier than you're used to, and hopefully the sound comes out all right.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our series on Marcus Aurelius and his meditations, which is, in my estimation and many others, one of the best examples on how to live your life and how to be introspective in such a way that helps you live better, not only with yourself, but in a extroverted way as well. And it's fascinating. And this is on episode 2, so this is, which is funny because we're only on our second page. We're doing this a little bit differently today. We are outside in the outside kitchen, and well, because we're having a nice little gathering of friends and some family members, and we just thought, heck, why not just shoot it here? And if we just shoot right on, Mr. Schmidt, we are talking about, leaving off on the last episode of how important it is to recognize the people in front of us and around us, that what are the qualities that they bring to us? How do the people in our lives make us better people? And how do we make them better? And that is really at the point of Marcus Aurelius' meditations where we are. And he continues on in the second page of recognizing, it doesn't go into detail, so I'm not exactly sure who Rusticus is, but it's great that he recognizes without being offended when an acquaintance or friend gives you constructive criticism. When they say things about you that you may find offensive, but you know it's for your own good. He was able to recognize that in Rusticus, that Rusticus was not saying things to hurt him. He was saying things to help him be a better man.
See, I think that brings up an interesting point that is severely lacking from today's society. In today's society, when we hear something we do not like or do not care for, we immediately cancel that person out. We don't want to look inside of ourselves. I think a lot of the reason we don't want to look inside of ourselves is because our culture has brought us up to be so superficial. Everything is on the surface. We don't have any depth. Most people don't have any depth. Once you start getting a little older and you start being enlightened to some of these things, like the great minds in the past, you start thinking, well, maybe I should look inside myself and see what I truly think and believe. And when somebody else's opinion differs from mine, maybe I should look and see what I actually believe first. And if somebody disagrees on a point that I may or may not have, maybe I look in my own argument and say, well, was that a good argument? Well, was I a good person in that? Did I really have the right of it? And try to look at both sides, as Marcus Aurelius has done with Rusticus. He's not just automatically saying, well, that person's wrong. He's saying, well, maybe there are some things about me that I can grow and improve upon. And instead of saying, well, you're wrong or you're stupid or whatever.
They're getting offended and just wanting to fight. Say, oh, you're talking bad about me. Let's go out back so I can beat the crap out of you. You know, I mean, that's what it boils down to. He's like, hey, I don't think this guy's trying to be mean to me. I think he's trying to point out some character flaws that I need to work on. And that takes a really different type of mindset than, there are those people, and we've all experienced this, where someone will say comments or something to try to put you down, to drag you down. And he recognized that's not what his buddy is trying to do. His buddy is trying to lift him up, saying, hey, if you want to do better in this life, maybe you shouldn't act in certain ways. And this will, instead of being upset by that, he took it and ran with it and said, hey, I think you're right.
Yeah, but that goes back to a lot of his meditations, which is the name of this book. meditating on himself and his life and saying, all right, well, maybe that guy's got a point.
Yeah, I think it's great. And they went on, Rusticus went on to say, don't do acts of goodness for recognition. Like, just don't go out of your way to be nice to somebody so everybody else can go, oh man, that Trey's a great guy, you know, or whatever, to pat yourself on the back like we see so many places all over the world where you see, oh, let's have a banquet to celebrate homeless, you know, or celebrate cancer, or celebrate whatever. Not celebrating it, but let's getting together and have our own personal celebration to raise money for that. So all these people feel good about themselves. They can go home, oh, I'm such a great do-gooder. And most of them don't even know where the money's going in the first place.
We know that goes back to some of our early videos. If anybody out there is questioning what these things are about, you can go back and watch our video on mission trips, which is basically the same principle. They're doing these things to make them feel good, rather it actually helps out other people or not. You should not only be doing things to get recognition. You should do things because it makes you feel good and it's the right thing to do, to genuinely help somebody, not for the superficial.
I'm going to take your comment and say, I don't think you should do those things just to make yourself feel good.
I think you should recognize that it's making yourself feel good, not you're doing it just to make yourself feel good, but you're doing those things and it makes you feel good.
Which leads to a whole topic of selfishness, because I think being selfish is good. We've been raised to say selfishness is bad. I think being, and this goes directly into Marcus Aurelius, is that you have to recognize things that are around you and within you. And what he is saying, just don't do acts of goodness for recognition. But if you are selfish enough to do things just on that purpose, without the recognition, just, hey, it does make me feel better, then there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we're taught, hey, don't be selfish. And I think that's false. You should be taught to, hey, be selfish. Be selfish about the people you love. Be selfish about your learning. Be selfish about you growing. Be selfish about you being in good physical shape. Be selfish about how you feel on the inside. If you hurt somebody's feelings unintentionally, and it was something that could have been avoided, you should recognize that. And if not, then who cares? It made you feel good. So there's a lot of things to explore within your own actions and in yourself, like Marcus Aurelius is doing here. Like Rusticus even went on to tell him how to dress and how to write, how to speak, like how to write simply. Don't, if you're a good writer, just don't start writing wonderfully because you can. Write wonderfully to make a point. Get to the whole notion of the thing quickly and simply. Kind of like in our letters to each other. When we write, we don't write long diatribes. They are as brief as possible. And which makes me think, when I read this in Marcus Aurelius, it reminded me of letters that Thomas Jefferson wrote to his several friends, but one famous one where he said, I'm sorry the letter is so long, I did not have time to make it shorter.
Because writing a short letter to get everything you need to be said in one letter in a short amount of time takes a lot more thinking than it does just to go do it.
It certainly does.
Which, again, we're in the business of self-improving here. If none of y'all have ever tried that, you should just go and try to write a letter to someone that you love and care about so you can express your feelings to that person and have it be a good exercise for yourself and them, because they can see how much you love and care about them.
Yeah, just like the exercise in the last video. Write down everybody who's in your circle and write down their names and write down why they are good for you and why you're good for them. This is a very good exercise. And to write them letters. Yes. Letters are very difficult to put to words into expression.
Not only is it difficult, but it's a great exercise for you just in your own personal growth. And when you get a letter from someone, it's a physical thing that you can keep and remember, and that other person should know that, you know, that took a considerable amount of time to do, and that's from the heart. That's not going on some big website and just order and, hey, there's a crappy $20 gift or 30 or whatever. Hey, here you go. Have a good day. That took time and effort, and which means so much more.
It certainly does. It's a lot better than a Hallmark card.
Way better than a Hallmark card.
From how to dress to how to write simply. And what I really liked was Rusticus going on with his buddy saying, hey, read carefully. Don't think that because you may think or believe you know a subject, you better examine it. You better read it thoroughly. You better understand what you're talking about. Don't see a subject and a few books laying around over there thinking you know exactly what they mean.
When you only have a superficial understanding of the subject.
You definitely need all the backup and understanding that you possibly can get. And I thought this was great, which one of the guys that you can't see sitting with us right now said earlier. He goes, I just like to be quiet. Rusticus told this guy, Marcus Aurelius, don't talk too much.
This goes back to one of those things when we first started hanging out and getting to know each other more. You cannot learn anything if your mouth is open. If your mouth is open and you're talking, your lips are moving, your ears are shut. It is very important to be a good listener, to have good and well-meaning relationships with other people. So don't talk too much.
Or, and I'll just take this a step further, some people will keep their mouth shut, but their mouth and their brain is running like crazy, and their ears are shut.
Oh yeah, because they're waiting for their next time that they can talk. So it's important to listen to what the other person is saying, not just hear them, but to listen.
This made me think of other little mini-series that I'm sure that we're going to do. He was grateful for Rusticus for introducing him to Epictetus. And if you people out there don't know who Epictetus is, I highly recommend you just order Epictetus. Just order it, buy it from Abe Books or any of the other websites out there. That is fantastic. And then he goes on to his other guy. It's Apollo. It's Apollonius, I-U-S. He taught him freedom of will, and that is what we have. We have the freedom of will. And because we have so many options in this life, it requires discipline. It requires thought. It requires, hey, let's take a deep breath. Let's be calm. Let's wait. Let's not get in a big hurry. Freedom of will is a big deal. And especially in more free countries, like this country is, for anyone who's not blind, deaf, and dumb, obviously sees that we're going on the fast track to more slavery. Our freedom of will is steadily becoming less and less and less, so it becomes more important. Even though it was equally as important before, but it is now more pronounced. How important is your free will? Do I spend time with the people that I love and know that are going to help me be a better person? Do I spend my time not doing those things? Do I spend time, kind of like y'all last night, we may having a funny story about them just doing the random pigging out. Just making some brownies and some stuffed whatever y'all were making. But you're spending that quality time with the people you love, you're laughing, eating, just having a great time. Those are valuable moments in your free will, because you could have chosen not to have shown that love and caring and just done silly things.
Or not even just silly things. You could have done mindless things like watch a television show or any number of mindless activities. But
pre-qualify that whole television show thing, because I don't like it when somebody says, oh, we're just watching TV.
Well, there's difference between just watching TV as a passive activity and watching a television show that you can learn and grow from. What I think most people do is watch television as a passive activity to turn their brain off. Now, that's fine in small quantities, But if you're going to watch the television, you can use it as a tool. Like any other tool, it can be used for good purposes or it can be used for ill purposes. So you can use the television to learn something new about a different place. As a matter of fact, you could probably find several programs or documentaries about this Marcus Aurelius guy that we find so fascinating and see, hey, you know, why do we like this guy so much? What's all the fuss about? Or you could watch, you know, some mindless show and just tune out for a little bit. I think the important thing is when we're talking about freedom of will and allocation of time is, are you going to remember that mindless activity? Probably not. But are you going to remember that time that you spent building those relationships? Are you going to remember in 10 or 15 years when we sat down and watched that television show? Probably not. But are you going to look back and say, hey, you know when we used to sit back late at night and we'd just, hey, get a hankering for something and go cook some brownies or you know, make some peppers, or we just fed each other and had a really good time with our community of the people that we love, know, and care about, and build those bonds.
I think that's very valuable. And what I really think is valuable is whenever I just heard gunshots in the background, it made my insides happy because somebody over there was exercising their freedom of will and their freedom of humanity and freedom of expression to either target practice. Even though I love life and don't want to kill anything, I do enjoy getting rid of the wild boars and wild hogs everywhere around here. That's probably foreign to many of you. They sound like really church bells of happiness in the background. So one thing was that I thought was great was the steadiness of purpose. If you're going to do something, be steady with it. Don't flip-flop around. Don't meander. Don't that. I got this to do. I'm going to go do that. That's what I need to be doing. I don't need to just deviate over on this path and deviate over there. He's learning a lot from this Apollonius, and he's saying, hey, he taught me the value of the free will. Do not deviate from the steadiness of purpose. And this was the greatest thing I thought, and the most hard, most difficult thing to do. Always remain the same. Even with sharp physical pains, if your body's hurting, still like the same. Don't complain about it. You just keep on being you. If you lose a child, how painful is that? You lose somebody that you love, you stay steady. Nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to understand all the difficulties going on with inside you. Maybe on some kind of level, the closest people near you need to be aware of some of it. But don't change your life. You still have to be steady in purpose.
You know, it goes to, especially on the losing kid thing, which is very hard, I'm assuming. I have not had to face that thing yet, and I hope I don't. But you still have to live your life, and you still have to make the most out of it. So you want to live your life the best you can, and to remain the same. Don't let those things really change who you are down to a fundamental core. You want to stay that good, upright, positive person. Don't let the outside things that you cannot control bring you down, because it's very easy to do, and that's really great advice. And that's something that during your meditations, your times alone, should really think and contemplate those ideas, because hearing it or reading it sounds like something that could be, oh, I could do that. But it's really much more difficult than that. It takes a lot of strength of character to pull those things off.
In a big way, because you see people that have lost someone, a son, a daughter, a husband, wife, a friend, and especially in this day and age where social media is rampant. Well, people will just make all sorts of posts about whatever loss they had, whatever this or that, and it makes them feel better to get some sad little emojis or some little likes. Or to me, that is a sickening proposition, the nature of the technological aspect of humanity. You know, if I have a loss, and I have had loss, and experienced extreme things, and I cannot imagine in my darkest hours that I would go and post something so I could get some likes or emojis or whatever. It's none of your business. What goes on inside my soul, inside of my heart, is between me and the people that are closest to me. And everybody else can screw off.
Yeah, the outside world doesn't mean that much.
Now, I may be connected to everyone, and they may have relevance to me, but not in those moments. No. And I think, and even to say this 2,000 years ago is a pretty big deal. To understand, even back then, 2,000 years ago, that you keep steady. No matter if you have a long illness, no matter if you lose something that's dear to you, no matter what. Steady, steady, steady. Not all over the place, not bouncing around, not, oh, woe is me. Steady. That's some very important things to contemplate, because it is not an easy task. This is pretty great. Don't be humbled or to go. Don't do anything that doesn't warrant some sort of notice. Like if you gave me a gift, I should not let it go unnoticed, but I shouldn't make that big of a deal of it. I should say, thank you. I appreciate it. I love you. But I should not make an over big deal of it, and I should not let it go unnoticed. That is a pretty insightful thing, because some people will take that to the extreme, and then some people are just, their egos are so much that they'll just don't think they should say anything. I just thought it was a nice little passing sentence that, don't be humbled by a gift or by words, but also don't let it go unnoticed.
So that's a great thing about this book in Marcus Aurelius, is some of these just comments made in passing. I mean, you could really sit down and have long philosophical discussions with people that are in your inner circle with. I mean, it's just, he says that almost in passing, and really you could have a 20 or 30 minute conversation with people.
I'm making your little screen bounce. I'm sorry. Sorry, people.
It's all right. That's part of the magic of shooting on location.
That's right. Well, you're exactly right. And there's so many things that just reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, you think, wow, there's so many important things to be talking about with the people immediately around you. With your kids, with your brothers, your sisters, with your friends. But people don't have those. If you look around to the people you're acquainted with, most people don't have those in-depth conversations. They would rather talk about, sit around and watch who won the Bachelor, who did the, who's won the
whatever reality.
Whatever crap that is being force-fed into your mind to distract you from real conversation. It is infinitely everywhere. It is disgusting. It's repulsive. It makes my stomach turn. Like it's so bad that, if you take a step back, you can see quite easily and clearly how purposefully that has been done to this society and quickly spreading worldwide out of Western civilization, that don't talk about important things. Don't talk about things that make you feel uncomfortable. Don't go that extra step to get to know somebody and dig into who they are and let them dig into who you are and see if you even connect. There's none of that in this country. We just automatically judge you on the surface and then bam, you're done. It's quite disappointing. But the good news is that you can continue to learn from Marcus Aurelius, which is just fantastic, which, like he goes on with his buddy Sextus, he gave an example of a family governed in a fatherly manner. And I thought that was great. I thought about you, and You're like, you know, if you're a dad and you want to do your part as just a good dad and a good human, you would think, well, I would also want to give a good example to everyone around me by being a good dad, like you are to your daughter. You know, it's a good. I'm just messing with my brother right now. You know, it's a good, fun thing to see people being good fathers and to set the example to everyone around them. You know, am I going to spend, kind of like what you told me recently, and what he's saying right here about sexist, am I going to choose, like, I know I need to go over there and clean my kitchen real quick. I know I need to do that. But I also know me and my boy are right in the middle of doing something, and I want to spend my time with him and finishing and loving on him and finish doing this before I go do that. It's just those little tiny slices of life that can give the best examples to everyone around us.
Yes. So true, because again, life is made of memories, and what do you want to remember? The clean house or all the time you spent with your child? Because those little times you can stay up a little bit later and clean up the kitchen when they're in bed. I mean, spend the time with them. They're only a kid once. They're only that impressionable age once. And if you build a good quality relationship with them in their formative years, they're going to grow up and they're always going to spend that time with you. They're going to want to be around you. They're not going to have that, oh, he's a teenager and he hates me. Well, maybe. Did you really, that's what I'm saying, is did you really put in the time with them as they were growing up? I mean, is that fault some yours? Is that fault some theirs? Is there a shared blame on that?
Who knows? Everybody has their individual life. I love it whenever how he jumps into these really deep subjects and it goes right into live comfortably with nature. Man, I mean, that just is a whole long topic of our civilization now. Everybody's indoors. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's on video games. Everybody's in front of a mindless TV. Everybody's hiding inside. Where's the talk amongst anyone you know in society that says, hey, let's just go out and hang out. Let's just go walk around. Let's be outside. Let's enjoy the trees. I don't, unless you're around the farm, I really don't hear that very much with anyone.
And I think a lot of people, especially how we've been brought up to society, is that tree's in my way. You know, I need to move nature to suit my needs instead of living comfortably within nature. You know, if you travel around the world, I mean, if you remember going through that mountaintop in Argentina, there was a family just on the side of the road that had their house built around the mountain where there's trees coming out through the roof. I mean, they built within nature. They didn't say, this is in my way and I need to move all this stuff to make myself comfortable. You can live within those nature and make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I remember those kids just laughing and having a great time, and I was just thinking, holy crap, they're about to fall off that ledge.
See, they were comfortable with nature, the things that make you scared and terrified going up a mountain, which nobody else is driving. You know, live within that nature, feel comfortable with it. You know, you don't really know you're alive or person unless you're pushing your comfort zones.
Every time, always push your comfort zones. You know, looking after the interest of your friends, how difficult is that?
I would say that's very difficult. But if you have a group of like-minded individuals, it's probably much easier than you would think. If all your friends want to do is talk about the latest Bachelor winner, I would find that very difficult and challenging. But like us, what are our interests? Making good, nice organic products for ourselves and our body, cooking out, doing this. I mean, those are very easy things. I mean, if you have a group of people that you enjoy spending time with, I think those things come much easier. I think a lot of people are friends with some people just because they grew up with them or they don't really know why they're friends with people. They don't examine their friendships like we talked about in our last video to see what those people like and mean to you and what they mean and like in turn to everyone else in the group. I think if you have that relationship with the people you're close to, that's a much easier proposition than it could sound at first. It's still not very easy to do. It's very hard, but it's much easier if you have the right set of circumstances.
Well, as friend Sex is speaking on that subject of what's difficult, how difficult is this? Tolerating ignorant people. So Sextus is teaching Marcus Aurelius to tolerate ignorant persons and those who form opinions without any consideration. That is probably the hardest thing for me as a man. I recognize that fault. I struggle with it all the time. I know people have beliefs that I'm around and know, and some of them I love. And I just have to just bite my tongue, and which is very difficult for me because I'm such a blunt guy. And just go, what are you doing? You don't believe that. You don't. I know you don't. If you knew the facts of X, Y, and Z, I know for certain you would not believe that. Well, whether it is a whole host of different topics, it's just really that's difficult to tolerate. I guess we do tolerate it the best we can.
I think some people do. I would be much more on your side of the line. I find it very difficult to have those people around me. And when they're not, or when I'm forced to be around those people, I have that bluntness of which you speak, where I just want to change the world. Like, why do you have to be so dumb? I need to change you. And I get upset with myself and them because I make what I think are these great, wonderful arguments full of, facts and logic and reasoning, which go completely unnoticed because most of the people of which he is speaking, stupid people or ignorant people, they don't know what they believe in to begin with. So you can't change their mind because they don't really have an understanding. They're just superficially brought up into that, or they have held so much of what they think in that belief, and me trying to change them is only going to make both parties angry. Nobody is going to come to the middle.
It's kind of like what you were saying a little while ago, where we were discussing with Marcus Aurelius when being a listener. The people that you would want to talk reason and logic with, they cannot hear you because their inner mind, that mouth inside there is just meh, 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 meh. It's bad. And so you can never reach them. I think you just tolerate them and move on. Because there's a lot of people that I care about, like, I care about our brother Chance. I just don't want to be around him. So if you're watching Chance, I care about you, but I don't want you anywhere near me until you, become more tolerable, or until I become stronger. Then it's just the way it is.
Well, we'll see which one of those acts happen first. I'm honestly going to err more on the side of you becoming more tolerable. No, that's not going to. Yeah. No, I don't know.
Who knows these things?
I have to read this book 17, 18.
Yeah, I got to meditate on this a lot. So do not show anger. Be entirely free of passion. Wow, how difficult is that? To talk to somebody when you're really excited about a subject and just go, I'm not going to be that passionate. I'm not going to get that excited about it. I don't know. That's difficult.
I thought more of the not showing anger is difficult, especially when you are having a heated discussion with somebody and y'all are on opposite ends and both people are willing to listen and both people have their own points and they feel very strongly about them. To think, I can't get angry because why can't you see my side? Because as soon as you get angry, you lose the discussion or the debate.
Yeah, it's over because maybe the other person's not angry. Maybe the other person's level-headed. And maybe they just don't want to hear your crap. And they just, hey, I'll talk to them another day when they've cooled off.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. So it's a very good point. Just don't be that passionate where you're turning everybody off.
Yes.
Yeah, unless you got a big crowd where everybody's on the same page and everybody's getting fired up together because they need to.
But then you move into mob psychology, which is a whole nother thing. We're talking, and he's speaking more of a one-on-one or a small group setting basis. Interpersonal communication is much different than speaking to the masses. Because if you have the masses coming to see a person speak, it doesn't really matter what the person says. They're pretty much going to be on board. If they spent their time, energy, and effort to get to that mob,
They're all out.
yeah, they're already gung-ho anyway.
I like this. Possess knowledge without ostentation. Like, it's okay to be really smart. Just don't show it off a whole lot.
You know, it goes back to what he said earlier about wealth. It's really the same principle. He's wealthy in his mental aspects as well in, monetary value. Use those things the same. They're both assets, and use them accordingly.
How about refrain from finding fault? As Alexander the grammar, how do you say this word? It's grammar. It's a grammation, whatever it is. It's this guy that taught English, I guess. Well, not English, but what was he reading? It was Greek?
It was probably Greek. Greek and Latin were the two main languages.
Refrain from finding fault is what he learned in this Alexander. And do not be reproachful who utters nonsense. It's kind of like, tolerate the ignorant and inquire without being offensive. So if like somebody's really dumb and they're talking to you in something that you just think that they're being dumb, well, don't be a jerk. Just try to figure out inquisitively, hey, how are you doing that? Why do you think that way? Well, what is the basis of your thought? Can you show me the facts why you believe that?
It's kind of back to the Socratic method, asking questions in a leading manner to get someone to go over to your side. Ask questions to do it. Don't just go blunt force, this is why you're wrong. Maybe question them, see if they do know anything about what they're so passionate about.
I think that it's really, this guy really, Marcus Aurelius went really deep in trying to figure out all the benefits of everybody around him and how he could learn from them. That's just fantastic, something we should all practice all the time. This guy Fronto, learn how to see envy and duplicity and hypocrisy in leaders. Don't you wish we saw some of that in people in the United States today, or worldwide?
I was going to say, I think that's a worldwide epidemic there.
It has happened, since before his time until now. It's really important to see, hey, I really like this Biden guy. I really like this Trump guy. I really like Bush. I really like Gore. Why? Do you know anything about them?
Probably not.
Do you see their rhetoric? Do you see what they're saying and then what they're doing?
One thing I like to think of when you just said see their rhetoric and then what they're doing, anyone that's in a public office, they can't write all their speeches. They don't have time to write all their speeches. There's a whole host of people that are doing all of their public speaking and images for them. So what they say really is not that person. You can't go off of anything any politician ever says, because they might have said it, but they didn't write it. They're a parrot. They're up there just like any president, any head of state. They're reading off a teleprompter.
They're a puppet.
Yeah, they're puppets. So you have to go by their actions, because the people that are writing the speeches are giving you, the people, what they think you want to hear. You have to go by what they're actually doing.
What do you think about this Alexander the Platonic, whenever he says, because I've been guilty of this before, and I'm going to practice now not to ever do this again. Don't say or write that you don't have leisure time or you are too busy to consider a matter. Nobody is ever too busy to not consider something. You're never too busy not to do the most important things in your life. You're never that busy. I'm a pretty active guy. I'm pretty busy, but I can still fit a ton more into my life. I choose to go a little slower at some things. I could speed some of that up. I could cut some of that out. I could do a lot of things to make sure I had time if I wanted to do that particular thing. I should never tell somebody I'm too busy.
To me, that's the same thing as saying that's above my pay grade.
It's like being it's being dishonest. It should be, I would rather do this other thing than this thing.
Yes.
Whatever it is that I value doing this more than that. Maybe I don't even want to do, maybe whatever it is that you're asking, whether it's to, business deal, personal, it doesn't matter. We're all guilty of this. Oh, I've been busy, I forgot. Mm-hmm. Well, you may have forgotten, but you weren't too busy.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I forget stuff all the time.
No, say it ain't so.
It's so true. And forgetting is another matter, but actually saying you're too busy, it's a cop-out. I thought that was great, so I thank Marcus Aurelius for that. I'm going to do my best not to say that ever again.
Well, now we can just be right along with our normal blunt self, and when somebody says something, I would like to consider your matter, I just really don't care.
Yeah, I either don't care or I would rather be doing something else that I find more valuable.
I think that's really a more honest approach to it is, you know what, I'm not going to lead you on and have you thinking that I'm going to get to this. I'm not going to get to it because it might be important to you, but it's not that I don't have the time to do it, it's I don't have the want to do something.
Yeah, and you find that with a lot of people, friends, family, brothers, sisters, spouses, whatever, where you think, all right, well, I've done this a lot. It's throughout the course of my life, but especially the past 5 years, where I really think, what is the highest and best use of my time? And depending on my mood, like what kind of mood am I in? What would I enjoy doing that would help me learn more, like right now? What would help me be a better person? What would help me be a better trader? What would help me be a better anything? And that's what I want to do. And because I think that is the highest and best use of my time for myself and for the people that love me and who I love. And so we really probably should just be a little bit more blunt about that. Like, hey, I really could, I'm wasting my time. And nothing really is a waste of time because you can probably find some good in everything. It just depends on you.
And again, it goes back to what you're even asked to look into. Some things could genuinely be a waste of time. Yeah.
Love my children truly. I think that goes without saying, but I think most people truly love their children.
See, I'm going to completely and utterly disagree with you on that. I think most people tolerate their children. I think most people do not want to be around their children. I see so many people that say, "Oh, I can't wait for school to start," because they don't want to be around their kids. They want that time away from them. I mean, I understand you needing your own personal time, but if you have a child, then you should want to be around them. It should be a pleasurable event to you. I don't think most people get that out of their kids, especially where we live. A lot of people use children as just another source of income because it pays to have lots of kids in this country. I mean, it's a welfare state. I don't think most people care at all about their kids. I mean, I've started protecting my kids' future from the time that they came out. Actually, before that, when me and my wife got married, I've said this several times. We said that we're going to put aside $1 a day, every day from both of us. At the end of the year, we'll put it into account. We'll make a CD of it.
Be careful hitting that chair. You're making it.
That's investing in your child and in your future and their future. That's the love of that. Most people just think, oh, well, if they can't support themselves, well, that's their fault. And I'm not saying you should give your kids everything in a monetary value, but if you sit down and talk with your kids and give them the tools that they need to go out in the future, is going to be vastly superior than sending them off to some public indoctrination camp and want them to do it. So no, I do not think most people love or care about their kids. I hear people say all the time, "Oh, I'll do anything for my kid. I'd kill for my kid." Oh, you would? What have you done for your child lately that is a measurable thing that you could see in them? What have you invested in them?
That's a good point. All right, I'm going to give you that point. What have you done mentally and spiritually for that kid. I would have to say a lot of parents are emotionally supportive, at least the ones that I know. I would have to say they're emotionally supportive in that they could talk to their parent and feel some comfort level. Now, as far as mental and spiritual growth, I would have to give everyone that I know a massive failing grade. There are no in-depth discussions. There is no spiritual guidance. There is no, even the thing that you're talking about, giving $1 a day to your son, where you're giving him fiat currency that's going to be worth nothing, so I'm hoping you're giving him silver or gold.
Oh, well, you know I am.
So, there's a lot of things that are lacking that we have to recognize that Marcus Aurelius 2,000 years ago is telling us that we should be aware of. We need to be having these discussions with our children. We need to look at our kids and go, hey, it's good to go do these things. It's good to study this. It's good to be physically active here. It's good to do this. We need to have moderation and spread it out and everywhere and not focus too much on one particular thing. Focus on all of it so you can be a very well-rounded person. I know 0 people that practice that.
No.
0. And I don't know, I don't have any children, so I don't know how well I would do. I would probably be guilty of spending more time on philosophical issues than I would on letting them do. And then we got somebody else banging the camera, so this is going to be all beat up. You probably don't want to look at him anyway. So who knows? We're all guilty of it on one, or would be. All we can do is try to be well-rounded, but if we're lacking in any area, we need to figure it out. Like, what have we not discussed? What are we letting slip through the cracks because this subject I may not know enough about? This particular issue makes me uncomfortable to discuss. This, my kid really likes doing this, so I really don't want to, squash that a little bit or make this more important. Or, we're all guilty of that from everywhere, and every parent. I don't know any who's not.
Well, so this is a big topic and issue we're talking about here. I mean, I think the first step is just sitting down and having engaging conversations with your child, no matter how old they are. I see all the time parents getting onto their child and just tell them, don't do that. Why? Because I said so. That's not an answer.
It's not an answer. It's a cop-out.
No, you should tell them why. And if you don't know, you should simply say, I just don't like that, and I would prefer you not do that. Because I don't really understand why I don't like that, maybe. Maybe you feel that way. Just to be open and honest with your kid. But having a conversation with them is a good starting point. Sitting down playing with them.
It's a good practice to help you with everyone else too, because who's the most important people in your life? Your spouse, your kids, the most immediate people around you. So if you can't communicate clearly with your children, your spouse, your brother, sister, in the most direct manner, how are you going to do it with anybody else? Other than live a totally superficial life. And as Socrates says, and I just cannot ever say or this enough, the unexamined life is not worth living. So we just go on to this, we're almost done here, which I just can't believe we're just scratching the surface of this brilliant mind. Marcus Aurelius mentions this catalyst, guys, says, don't be indifferent when a friend finds fault, even if they find fault without any reason. Like, don't be indifferent. That's difficult for me. If these two guys sitting over here that y'all can't see started telling me about faults of mine, and I thought they were wrong, it'd be difficult for me not to be a little indifferent. Now, I'm pretty good at just covering up with that mask about not showing emotion, It's tough to be it's tough to be just totally indifferent on the inside. Like that's difficult. It's hard to go. I think these guys are either deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid for calling me out on something that I know is right. And that's basically what he's saying. He's saying if you know you're right, they have no reason. If they find fault in you for no reason, you just don't be indifferent. Just be happy and go about your merry way. I try to do that. That's difficult.
See, I took that from a little bit different perspective. I took that from a relationship perspective of a husband and wife. Because there's many times where a wife will find fault in you and you think,
they will not.
yeah, I say it's true. I say it's true. And I've been so guilty of it oh, I do that. You just don't see it. No, maybe you may take a step back and say, all right, well, they think that I've got a fault here, and I don't think I do. So where is the happy median? Maybe do something extra special, and then you know that you've put forth that effort, that you're not showing indifference. You're saying, all right, I take that you find that as offensive or you don't like that. I will not be indifferent to it. I will at least hear you out on your point, and I will try to do better. But I would like for you to reciprocate. When I find something in you that I find equally the same, I don't want you to blow me off either. So I find that is a very interesting just paradigm between you and just find one person in your life that you care about that this has happened. If you're married, this situation has came up, and if you're one of those lucky few that it hasn't came up, just wait. I bet it will.
For sure it will. I thought about this on the last guy that Marcus Aurelius, in this particular episode, this is the last guy we're going to talk about. And of course it made me think about my brother here, Mr. Schmidt. I'm reading about it, and I'm thinking about what would my brother or brothers tell me? Like, what could it, because I started writing down from reading Marcus Aurelius, I started writing down every one in my life, just like we suggested in the last episode. And I started writing down what I gained from everyone and what I could possibly give to everyone else. And that is a very interesting task. And if y'all haven't done that from the last episode, I highly recommend it. It is a very good exercise. And I thought of some of these things with you. He says, love your family. Well, I think that's true to a large extent. You would want to love your family. Then at the same time, family's a little bit different than friends for most people. Like there's certain people in your family that you just don't particularly get along with, so maybe you don't want to spend that much time with them. But you still know if you got in a jam, you got a flat tire somewhere and you just you had nobody to come help you because you didn't have a spare, they're probably going to be the ones that come help you. But you still don't want to hang out with them. It's an interesting thing, but that's all. They could go on forever. And I could see this whenever I read this. It says his brother told him to love truth, love justice. And I could see that coming from you. Thankful for being introduced to thinkers. Well, you've never introduced me to a thinker, but I could see you introducing me to thinkers. Well, let me take that back. You did introduce me to Casanova, who on the surface, like Marcus Aurelius says, don't take anything on the surface, learn and understand. Well, Casanova was a much deeper, much more adventurous, crazy intelligent. I would have not ever known a lot of those things about him if you weren't have introduced me to him. So yeah, you have. But there is, what a great thing. Just a great thing to have someone close to you to introduce to you different ideas, new ways of thinking, different thinkers for your consideration, for you to explore, for you to weigh whether that's good, bad, indifferent. That's just great. It's good that he had a brother that did that for him. And it made me think of us and that we have done that.
We definitely have done that. I mean, let's just look at what we're doing right here, right now. Having this podcast, having this YouTube channel. You know, this took us as a team to come together and share responsibilities and sharing different ideas and thinkers. And, you know, he had that. And if you don't have that with one of your siblings, it is probably something you should at least give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what your other siblings will or won't do. Most people are afraid to have any kind of conversation other than very superficial with their siblings. I see it everywhere. And that's one of those things I just don't understand. Like, I've tried to have conversations that we've had with my other brothers and sisters. I can to some degree with one of them, and none of the rest of them I can. I've attempted. So I knew and know in my heart that, all right, I've tried many times to have a conversation with them about various topics, and I know that they're mentally lazy. I know that the idea of thinking and talking about a particular subject makes them sleepy, makes them, I just don't want to do that. Oh God, why do we have to talk about this? Oh, this is offensive. Oh no, I feel just this way. Nothing is going to make me change my mind because I feel that way. Again, that repulses me, so once you try a few times, you're like, all right, see ya.
Well, but giving the effort is really what counts there.
Well,
and you know, maybe in a couple of years, they may grow and mature and recognize that you spent that time and energy on them, and they might come back to you years later and say, hey, I remember that conversation we had, or when we tried to talk about this and I wasn't ready yet. Are you still up for the conversation? Which can and does happen.
It does. It's not that common, but yeah, it is rare. I like how his brother teaches him to have equal rights, and to bring this up twice in the first 3 pages was the equal freedom of speech.
Yes, he was very big on freedom of speech.
And how important is that now, 2,000 years later, when we are in a cancel culture, everybody's being taken off of everywhere. Twice on the third, just in the 3 pages, respect people's freedom of speech. How are you going to learn otherwise? How are you going to learn if anybody who says something you disagree with, you shut them out? You don't listen. You don't take the time to listen, because everything's real fast in this culture. I mean, if you don't have the 10-second sound bite, then everybody's done. And if we don't have the quick TikTok videos or the quick few seconds of this and that, everybody, their mentality it goes.
It's tuned out.
Yeah, it's fascinating, this guy, to have this kind of insight and wisdom thousands of years ago, and to be consistent and undeviating steadiness in his regard to philosophy. I love it. Who the hell do you know that even mentions the word philosophy outside of our group?
It's one of those things, it's hard to bring up in a conversation because most people are not even going to be in tune to the idea. I mean, so are you going to put yourself in that situation to try to gain that knowledge, or are you just going to let it pass? I mean, I think you have to build a pretty substantial relationship before you start bringing up philosophical ideas with people.
I don't know. I've been guilty of, and guilty in a good way, because I think it's a way to weigh people pretty quickly in business and in life. If you go to dinner with somebody, I've been to dinner with countless business associates, and you sit there, and I want to probe them just a little bit. I want to ask them some questions about whatever it is that we're talking about. And you know how, like, all these conversations we have, you can branch off of those real fast to find out what somebody believes. And I think it's appropriate as a man Because if you're going to be in my presence, and there's a good chance that you're going to continue to be in my presence, well, I want to have a little bit of understanding so I can measure you. Whether I need to know, do I want to spend more time with you, or do I want to have you more over here? I want to have you more in the center? Where are you going to fit into my life?
Now, that is a very good point, is using the philosophical discussion as a measuring stick. It's a very interesting concept.
I think it's appropriate. I'm glad his brother brought it up to him. And now that we're going to finish up with his brother on this, is that he cherished good hopes. Always wish for the best. Yes. And strive for the best. Wish and know things can always be better. You can make them better. His brother taught him that, and I just wish this guy was my old. I wish I had an older brother.
You know, bringing to the that thought, I do have an older brother, and it's worked out wonderfully. You know, sorry about your luck over there, buddy, but you got a younger brother, so, you know, I'll try to do my part when I can.
You really have, and you being my younger brother has been one of my greatest pleasures. I can't imagine not having a blood relation that I could not be able to have these kind of conversations. You know, I've had a few friends throughout the decades where we can have in-depth philosophical discussions, but the second you start to deviate from what somebody is gung-ho about, all of a sudden you just go your separate ways. It's most unfortunate. But, you know, that wraps it up really for his brother, other than...
I would like to add one thing on his brother, where he's saying, basically where he's saying, send out the positive into the ether, into the universe, sending out being positive. I mean, I like to go back to Napoleon Hill, which is several thousand years later, but you know, thoughts are things. If you wish ill, then you will get ill. If you wish and are always positive, you have a great likelihood of getting that positivity back. So if you think you're going to fail, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will fail. And if you think you're going to do good, chances are you will.
I think you're absolutely right, and I really enjoyed that. I think there's a lot that we could all take away from Marcus Aurelius just in the first 3 pages. I highly recommend you pick up his book and just read it yourself and explore just the great notions of how to be a better person just in his simple writings. It's fantastic. Mr. Schmidt, would you like to sign us out of this thing?
I hope everybody had a wonderful time watching us go on. If you do like us, hit subscribe, hit the bell, check out our other videos, and have a good day.